Remember growing up making the perfect mixtape with an art? It would take hours or even days to get the mood just right. It's an art that's nearly been lost in today's drag and drop digital playlist world.
We're four friends of 35 years with many, many mixtapes between us. Join us each episode as we pick a theme, discuss the songs, and build an infinite mixtape. Welcome to the Mixtape Diaries.
I'm the one who's always tasked with starting these things out and coming up with something clever to say. And I'm just not going to do it today. I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay. Well, hello to you too.
We're going to renegotiate this. We're going to figure this stuff out going forward. I don't have anything clever or funny or fun to say. So, welcome to the Mixtape Diaries. We are three today. Brad, Mark, and Carla. Introduce yourselves.
Hi.
Hello. Well, you said we're not being clever, so we're just going to...
Oh, I said I wasn't being clever. I was hoping someone would step into the breach.
Oh, so I see.
Yeah.
So Carla and I...
We failed.
Yeah. We're left here to pick up the pieces, eh?
Hey, you know what? Like, it's only going to get better from here, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's hope.
We've got 3 new songs thrown to the playlist today. Kind of excited about that. But first, let's do our announcements. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch of other places that are in a big list that get episodes from our podcast distributor. And I don't know what the names of them are, but if you're actually using them, then good for you. You're hipper than we are.
Look who's being clever now.
Am I being clever?
I thought it was kind of clever. Okay. Anyway, go
All
on.
right, cool. I'll take it. We also have a podcast. That podcast incorporates not all the songs we choose. Sometimes we're better than the streamers, and they don't have what we offer. But for the most part, everything we have gets thrown into the playlist, which you can access on Spotify or Apple Music. We've got links in the episode description. So if you're wondering where they are, just go in there and tap it on your phone. Conjure it up, listen to it. We've probably got days and days of music for you now. And I'd say most of it's really good. Some of it's good. And very, very little of it is poor. And we would argue about what was. So
We're not going to do that now. Even
not-
though we would all love to.
That's not today's theme.
That's not today's theme.
Which it would be a good theme, though, to do at some other time.
I've thought about a Survivor episode where we vote songs off the island.
Could be fun.
The idea, just to be fair and to not be marginalizing of anyone, is 1 or 2 of everybody's songs gets voted off. Like the worst Brad song gets voted off. The worst Mark song gets voted off. We'll talk about that. But everything in the playlist has at least 1 vote, and usually 2, and very often 3. And when we can muster a quorum, we can even get 4. So today we are 3.
Yeah.
But I like our 3.
It's very eclectic. Before we move on to that, though, there was one last announcement.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You want to do it?
Yeah. All right. I'll do it. I'm excited. No, go for it.
It's your baby. So
No, it's our baby. I just pulled the short straw to start it.
To the extent 3 people can have a baby. Yeah. Or 4.
you birthed it, so,
Yeah.
progress.
We're going to continue to push the hipness of this Gen X casting crew here to say we now have an Instagram page for the Mixtape Diaries, even though everybody's moved on to TikTok or something else that I don't even know about yet. But at least we are trying the gram, and it is the Mixtape Diaries podcast on Instagram. You can find a bunch of really fun content there, from homage to the episodes we're doing, links to our episodes, anniversary posts, concert live show posts, everything. We're just really trying to engage with you all, the listeners, and share our love for music. So it's kind of a more modernized visual take on the Mixtape Diaries, and hope you enjoy that. So go check it out. It's out there in the world.
Follow us, but don't lose your grip. That was hip, right?
That was clever.
Or was that like 2001?
It was kind of hip, like Dr. Evil, I'm hip.
Yeah.
I'm with it. Ducka, ducka, ducka.
No, stop.
Okay. Maybe we should just talk about the selections. Carla, why don't you kick us off with today's theme and your selection within that theme?
So all of us have been, this whole year, we've really been going to as many concerts as possible, it seems. And so I thought, let's pick a song from a recent show that we've been to. And I think all of us kind of had a hard time whittling down to what we wanted to pick today. I've been to some shows that we all love, like Devo and
Smart Patrol.
I really was going to pick Devo because that show, I'll talk about it quickly. That show was pretty epic. It was the first time they've ever played in Nashville, which I can't believe they'd never come through here before. They played at the Ryman, which is like historic, the most historic venue here. It's relatively small, kind of like in a previous episode where we talked about the Walt Disney Theater. It's around the same capacity, so it's around 2,000, 2,300 people. So it's always super fun to see a show there, and the crowd was so into it. Like, a lot of people were like dressed up in like costume, and it was so much fun. Like, you did not sit down the entire show. Everyone danced the whole show. It was super fun. So I almost went that route, but instead I decided to go with a band that I thought maybe had heard of them, but maybe not. And I decided to pick a song from Middle Kids. They're an indie rock band out of Sydney. I saw them in June with our buddy Sam. They played A&R Bar in Columbus, Ohio, which is a tiny, tiny bar. It's part of the Kemba facility, which has an outdoor venue, an amphitheater, and like an indoor venue. And then they have this little bar. So it was a very small show, and it was so cool. They had like the garage doors open, so it was kind of indoor, outdoor, and we were right by the stage. I mean, it was really hard to like not be basically like at the front of the stage because it was just small and there weren't that many people there. It was a Monday night show too, so it wasn't very busy. They are a 3-piece and they just rock. Her voice is so gorgeous. Hannah Joy is the lead singer. This song I picked is called Highlands. It's off their latest album that came out in February called Faith Crisis Part 1. I first heard of this band, I think I probably just heard them on like Sirius XM, like XMU or Alt Nation or one of those, when their first single, Edge of Town, came out back in 2016. And Mark, I think I remember sending you this EP way back then, because right out of the gate, they just reminded me of a band that we would have listened to when we were in college. Like, they just had that old college rock sound that
Primitives.
This stage is kind of hard to find bands that sound like that. I think this particular album is their best album, really, from start to finish. It's a gorgeous album. It's really well produced. Their older stuff kind of has more almost like a garage kind of a sound to it. It's just doesn't seem as polished as this one does. Highlands is a great song. It's one of my favorites. It has a good beat to it, and some of these songs kind of ebb and flow, and there's soft spots and there's loud spots, and I love the guitar in this one. And I don't have a lot to say about them, but I've been a fan for a really long time. We were so glad we got to see them live. I mean, they don't tour very often, and so just see them in such a small venue was a real treat.
Friends in the open, out in the open, wherever you are, we're just getting started. Out of the dark, into the highlands, give me your heart. I wanna hide it and I can't keep waiting for things to change. Don't care where you are, we're just getting started. Out of the dark, into the highlands, give me your heart. I wanna hide it and I can't keep waiting for things to change.
This is the joy. Like, so these small venues, you end up with these bands that maybe aren't hitting the big arenas, but you get the true spirit of indie rock when you can be in a small venue. Yeah. I will be honest, I don't know the band well, but I know them enough because you threw them my way and have listened to them. And I believe the word you're looking for is anthemic. I feel like that's the spirit of that college indie rock. They should be playing in a big arena because they sure as hell could fill it sound-wise with a lot of their tunes. But I love that you reminded me of this band. Having a dog who's Australian origins bloodline, he loves all things Australia, so he's been listening to it mostly.
So I got 2 paws up from Vic.
Yeah, 2 paws up from Vic, shout out. It's hard to get him to stop listening to INXS, so it's nice to find a different Australian band in the mix here. But nice pick. I love this song. I think it's going to be a great add to the playlist, and you got me listening to this band again, so even more important, it's gotten me off of my slow dive nonstop that I've been listening to since April. So I'm a little more upbeat today.
The slow dive spiral.
Less than shoegaze mope and a little more upbeat today because of you. So thank you.
So I wish Bob was here because this is 100,000,000% a Bob band.
It totally is.
I didn't get a reaction from him on the text thread because
I know.
I think he knew he wasn't going to be in on this, but I think it's probably worth writing him and just being like, just make sure that of the links that we sent, right?
Yeah, that you listened to this one. I thought that immediately. I was like, this is very much in Bob's wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. So, fun, jumpy pop song. It had a little P.S. Eliot in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
A little Always, I think.
Oh, yeah. I see that. I hear that.
It didn't super grab me. It didn't have like an edge to it or anything that was like, we're going to sound very different from those acts because ... right? We're doing this other thing differently.
Yeah.
It's a good pop song. It's got a good tempo to it. It's got melody.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
It has all the good formula of a good indie pop. Like, the whole album's that way, but it's really good. I love all their records, honestly, but this one, I think, is next level for them. You could hear the progression.
And this is the newest?
Yeah. It came out in February, yeah. They had an interesting opener at this show, too. Another Australian, her name's Gordy, Gordi, and it was just her and a guitar and, like, a drum machine. Reminded me a little bit of when I saw Letitia Sadier earlier this year from Stereolab. It was kind of like that. It was just, she was just like doing all the things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And she was really cool too. So I think there's some interesting indie pop happening in Australia that maybe we just don't, we kind of stumble upon it.
Yeah.
And I don't really listen to my Sirius radio often anymore. And I think that's probably where we end up discovering some of these bands.
Maybe we should just do an Aussie episode. I'll do the Tropical Fuck Storm because I've been sitting on that for a while.
I've been listening to Amy Shark a little bit too, and she's another Aussie.
Nice.
I won't talk about Australia without an excess. It's just going to happen. It's
well,
obvious.
I mean, that's obvious. But
as long as Courtney Barnett doesn't make it into the playlist because it'll quickly get voted off. Snap.
Courtney.
Yeah, I'm going to lose that one, but
I'm going to look past all that and just note, Mark, that I got a vintage copy of the first INXS record the other day.
Nice.
At the record store just right around the corner. And I was thinking, like, how would that even get here? I don't think it was even released here. Then the other day I went back and they had another copy in there. So it's like the loaves and the fishes or something at that place. Anyway.
I just got a vintage copy of Listen Like Thieves recently at Phonolux.
There you go.
We might do the inserted Australian episode within our Backstage Pass episode, right?
It's just happening.
Well, awesome. Anything else to wrap on for your selection, Carla?
No, just go listen to this album. It's very good.
Already doing it. Noel, if you're listening, listen to this album.
Yeah.
You want me to go next, Brad? So you can...
That's fine, sure.
Have the grand finale, because I feel like your selection's probably
His
a grand finale.
Worthy of a grand finale.
I might just,
we're just soft
back.
openers. Yeah, we're soft openers here, Carla and I. So I have also had the blessing of seeing a lot of live music. I've probably seen more live music since February than I've seen in the previous 3 years combined. So we're going for it, and boy, oh boy, are the next couple months ahead of me very busy with live music. But I think coming out of pandemic, I just really realized that I'd taken live music for granted. Not that I wasn't going, but I was like, oh, I'll see them next time, or I'll go. Like, I think just the, daily rigors of work and life, I was tired. But having it been taken away, I think getting into the live thing has been great. And we've seen a myriad of great shows here, from Psychedelic Furs to Slow Dive to The English Beat to U2 at the Sphere. But more recently, we had the privilege of going down to the Greek Theater in LA and seeing Echo and the Bunnymen. And that was the draw for us. We couldn't wait. We actually got GA seats, and GA at the Greek is a very small little section. Like, I had no idea it was that small. I think there's like 20 people in it. So when we got our wristbands and walked in, I literally was like, my chest was on this,
You guys were like at the front of the stage.
My hands could touch the stage. I was so close. I was like blown away that like we just waltzed up with a glass of wine and like stood there, and I'm like right at the stage. So
that's awesome.
And while I didn't pick an Echo song, and they were fantastic, by the way, I picked a song from the opening band, which is called Warpaint. and they are also an indie rock band. So Carla and I on theme here together with indie rock bands. But they're an LA-based indie rock band and actually formed in 2004, which I think, Brad, you and I were talking in the green room. We were surprised to see that they'd been around so long because, I mean, that's a solid 20 years now, which is impressive. Their original name was actually World War IV, and then they changed it to Warpaint, which was a song one of the songs they have, which they've been playing for years. And I picked a song that came off of their second album, which was their self-titled album, Warpaint. I always find it weird when a band does their self-titled as their second or third album. I don't know. I always default to like your first album's going to be your self-titled, but
I think it's kind of badass when they do it. Yeah.
It's kind of like we'll show you. We'll self-title our sophomore album.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great album, and I selected this song, Disco Very, that's on this album. And the reason I did it is, A, the song just kicks ass, but B, it's what they closed with at the show. And listeners, when you throw this thing on and start giving it a listen, it is just a effing jam. Like, it is just a kick-ass song. I think all four of them actually lay down vocal tracks on this song too. And to see it live was just awesome. Like, and that we were right up close, and they were just getting into it with a full groove. So it was memorable. It was not just memorable for that evening, for their set, but it was one of the more memorable songs in all the live music I'd seen in the last couple of months, and just left there going, wow. I left here with a lot of excitement around this band, and subsequently listened to quite a bit of it afterwards. They actually enlisted veteran producer Flood, who, as many of you know through a lot of U2's work, PJ Harvey, to produce this album, to get a little bit more sensual and spooky post-punk is kind of a few of the like adjectives I read in some of the research I did, which I totally see now. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't need to be too long-winded in this description, but this song just kicked ass on the album, but it kicked even more ass live. We'll share a link to a video of the live.
Yeah, do that.
Of the live performance at the Greek as well. And if you've never been to the Greek Theater, for an outdoor amphitheater with a little bit more capacity, it is still an amazing place to see a show. Last show I'd seen in there was actually Liam Gallagher and Richard Ashcroft, in which Richard Ashcroft came out dressed in all white and an acoustic guitar and just slayed the evening. And I think Liam Gallagher was regretting that he let him open, because he had to come out and follow that, and he did not follow it. And I love you, Liam, but he just kicked ass and took the night. So anyway, it's an amazing venue to see music in. And of course, Echo and the Bunnymen came out and just rocked out as a bunch of 60-year-old post-punkers could do.
Right.
And that was that show. So yeah.
Very cool. So I was listening to this during a period of considerable stress yesterday when I was cleaning the kitchen, and I accidentally threw one of my Bose earbuds away, and I spent a half hour like obsessively looking for it, and I thought it had gone behind the stove where I would never get it again. And so while I was trying to find it, I had this song playing in one ear over and over and over and over again. And I don't know, it kind of worked, because it's very clear this song is trying to like generate agitation, feelings of angst and agitation. So it played about right for me. My only regret is that I didn't get as much time in the left ear as I got in the right. But in any case, I was scrubbing the stovetop, and I was thinking, this sounds like Bow Wow Wow, but without the joy, like cult programmed Bow Wow Wow. And that's not to knock it, because I think it's awesome. Like, I think that's badass, right? It's just freaky and badass, and the lyrics are very cool. Don't you battle, we'll kill you, we'll rip you up and tear you in two. Okay. It definitely grew on me with every new listen, and I like it a lot. I think it's pretty great.
Yeah, I said in the green room, this song was a banger.
Yeah.
It's just so good. I was walking the dogs this morning and popped it in, and I was like, yes, this is the energy we need on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
They were great. They sounded fantastic. They were just the four of them up there pretty stripped down and, just sounded great. Their vocals sounded great. There was a chemistry for sure. And I'm sure it's exciting. They're a local band from LA. And so,
Yeah.
if you've ever seen a show at the Greek, it's just a beautiful venue. The moon was out. It's outdoors. It's summertime. Everything kind of worked in their favor as well as, probably playing in front of a bunch of friends and family being locals. But they left it out on that stage when they closed with that song.
So what's the rest of the stuff sound like? That's a really distinctive sound. Like it had me thinking, as I said, like a modified Bow Wow Wow and a little bit of Slits and stuff. What are the other tracks like? I mean, I should go and listen myself, but
yeah, I'd
for the
encourage you
listener.
to. Some of it can get a little bit poppier.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I would almost say a little dream poppy in
Yeah.
some spots.
Oh, yeah.
This album in particular. So the song you picked came off of a 2014 release, and it is a little more like dream pop, I think. They are
Okay.
great. I have actually seen them live. I was just thinking if they had played Lollapalooza when we were doing that up in Chicago, and they did, and off this record because it was 2014.
So
I
this
have
is
seen
like
them before. They're
when
great.
Mark picked the gothy Cocteau Twins song.
Yeah.
This feels gothy to me in a very cool way. Yeah.
It looks like they're working on a new record because they have a couple of recent singles out that are pretty good. I've listened to them.
Yeah, I think shoegazy's it's elements of shoegaze, but to
Yeah.
me a poppier shoegaze. And then occasionally they'll throw in some of that angst like this song. So like I'd
Yeah.
say overall, I don't know, I guess it's probably not fair to say that this is like the only song they get this angsty on, but this is one of their angstier songs. And I feel like
I agree with that.
yeah, they tend to lean in a little softer, poppier shoegazy, and maybe threads of psychedelic in there, light threads.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All that sounds right to me. I mean,
Yeah, I think you would like them.
Yeah, it's just a band I knew of, but didn't really give them the time of day. And Sam and Carla actually built it up a little bit because we were swapping notes, since they'd seen them in, was it Chicago that you saw them?
We saw Echo and the Bunnymen.
You saw Echo in
We
Chicago.
thought we'd see Warpaint, but we
Yeah,
did
and
not.
subsequently you were not graced with such a great opener.
We were not.
We won't throw any hatchets at any other bands out there trying to make a go
I
of
don't
it,
even
Willie.
know what her. I don't even know what her name was.
Yeah,
so
so
to
there you
even
go.
Tell anybody.
The biggest insult you can throw an artist or a band is like, I actually showed up for the opener and we don't even remember.
But I don't know who it was. Yeah, she was terrible.
Too
Well, I
bad.
missed Echo altogether because it was the night before I flew out to California to see you, Mark.
That's
So I
right.
felt
Oh,
I
yeah.
shouldn't be going to another concert before I ditched my family for a week to see concerts. So
Fair.
And we had gone. Sam and I had gone in Chicago that weekend
That's right. Okay.
that you guys were in LA, Brad.
Unfortunately, they're. Oh no, I take that back. It's Psychedelic Furs are coming back through again, and with Jesus and Mary Chain. But we've got LCD lined up for that night, so we were really torn.
Those LCD sound system shows are just.
It just I
parties.
couldn't.
I mean, you can't not go.
No LCD at the Palladium. I was like,
Yeah. Oh God, it's so good.
But yeah, so we're gonna miss the Psych Furs coming back around again. But. Well, Brad, Carla and I built this up. The grand
yeah,
finale.
So just to close the loop, I did find the earbud. Thanks for asking. Thanks for all your concern.
I was gonna ask. I forgot.
All's well that ends well. Not that any of you cared. Not that any of you cared.
Sorry
I
about
just wanted
that,
to talk
Brad.
about how great Warpaint was, and you're not wrong.
That's yeah. It's what we do here on the podcast. So.
All right, so my turn. I got too many notes on this, so I'm going to deviate from the notes or slim them down considerably. So I went a different direction, man. I went back to the 60s, right? So I saw a couple weeks ago, well, probably a month ago now, Os Mutantes in Somerville. And, oh, man, I've been wanting to do some Os Mutantes for a long time now. And I think what's been holding me back is I can't decide what song I want to do. I've got like 3 super strong albums here on vinyl, and I love them all. And I mean, you guys kind of saw this in the text thread, right? I was like, well, how about this one or this one or this one? I did a little mark. I did a little 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D.
Yeah.
And it was always going to be 1A. The song is A Minha Menina, if I'm saying that right.
What'd you call
That's
me?
my Portuguese ain't all that. It means my girl. But it's not the Marvin Gaye song, so don't be expecting that. It's just a rockin' 101 level Os Mutantes song. Just maybe a word or two about this band, right? So this is a 1001 Albums band for me. It's like Noi on one hand, Os Mutantes on the other, like what's most enriched my life because of that book. This is Tropicalia music. So this was like late 60s. There was a military right-wing junta running Brazil. And there were these bands, these artists that kind of sprouted up and just started making kind of psychedelic sounding music, but not straight up Sgt. Pepper, although you can really hear Sgt. Pepper on this record. Maybe not on this particular song, but you can hear the Beatles in this a lot. They have a lot of samba beats, bossa nova type stuff. So they're mixing the traditional Brazilian with outside influences. And so the right wing was pissed off because, right, you can't have youth culture when we're trying to like make you miserable. And the left that was opposing the government, like the left wing people hated them too because they were like, you shouldn't allow these capitalist Anglo-American rock sounds. You shouldn't be doing this stuff. You should be purely Brazilian and communist and miserable. So I love that rising above all this was this movement of bands, right? So I have this record called Tropicalia. It's a compilation album that two musicians, principal musicians, Gilberto Gil and Caetano Veloso, produced. And it has just a bunch of songs that they gathered from like-minded musicians doing cool stuff. And Os Mutantes it's like the first track on it. The record, which you all should listen to, it's Tropicalia U Panis et Circenses, like bread and circuses. It's a good cross-cutting look at what these Tropicalia sounds were. I like Os Mutantes best because it's rockier, it's more distorted, it's a little more psychedelic, maybe a little less bossa nova-y, but it has all those elements in it, which you can hear in this song. So these were three kids from Sao Paulo, guitarist Sergio Dias Baptista, his brother Arnaldo Baptista on bass and keys, and then Rita Lee was the singer. She just passed away, I think, last year. You know, these things happen in threes. It was like Gal Costa, who was another Tropicalia singer, Rita Lee, and, oh gosh, what am I blanking on her name? The girl from Ipanema.
Oh,
Astrid Gilberto, right? So all three of them died
yes.
within a few months of each other. Anyway, so they were like barely in their 20s making these records. And I think Arnaldo was like only 18 when this first came out in 1968. The first record self-titled, that's in the 1001 Albums. The second one is called just Mutantes, and that came out 8 months later in February 69. And then the third one, and that's the one I left with you, Mark. So I found a copy of an Os Mutantes record in a store in Ventura. Mark doesn't have a turntable. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like Os Mutantes all that much. But I still bought it and left it with him because I can't be in a store with that record and not see it bought. And that's probably my favorite one. It's called A Divina Commedia u Ando Meio Desligado, which I don't know what that means, but that's the name of the title track. And so that came out in March 1970. So they put out these three crazy good albums in under 2 years. And you can hear just such talent and like joy on these records. It's just, I love it to death. So I saw them in Somerville, right? So they've worked their way around after 50 years where they can come play Somerville in like a mud puddle. It wasn't a mud. It was actually a beautiful venue, but it had like 40 people in it. It sounded a lot like your show, Carla. You know, it's a weeknight. We come strolling in. The guy who's selling the merch is actually the guy who's playing bass, as it turns out later, right? And he did sell a copy of that same record to a teenage girl, so I didn't have to buy it. I was so glad she had it because everybody needs to play that third record. The only person left in the band from the originals is Sergio, who's the guitarist, and he's pushing 80. I mean, and he kind of Joe Bidened his way out into the chair, you know, and sat in it, and his guitar wasn't plugged in right, and he couldn't get it figured out, and the younger backing musicians and the other guys in the band had to come figure it out for him, and Glenn and I were sitting there thinking, oh man, this might be rough. And then he starts playing the guitar, and you're like, oh my God, that guy hasn't lost anything. So good, so good. They played all the hits. They played this one, which if you look up Os Mutantes on Apple Music, it's the first track. Amina Menina. Anyway, a lot of distortion on this, right, with those guitars over top. I think that's throwing a bone to Carla. I might have her vote on this one.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so I love these guys so much. Yeah, can't get enough Os Mutantes. Need them in the playlist.
Ela é minha menina, e eu sou o menino dela. Ela é o meu amor, todinho dela. Chama! A lua prateada se escondeu e só dourado apareceu. Amanheceu um lindo dia, cheirando alegria, pois eu sonhei e acordei pensando nela.
I really love this song. I mean, when you threw those 3 songs out, this was the one. This one was my pick
Yeah.
of the 3. But it has all the elements that I like, right? There's like, it's a little jazz, there's a fuzz guitar, it's like very dancey. Like, it's just fun.
Yeah.
They're really fun. I was bummed. I didn't know until after the show when I saw someone post about it on Facebook that they played the Blue Room here, which is Jack White's venue that's part of Third Man Records, and it would have been incredible to see them there. Very small room.
Yeah.
That's where Letitia Sadier was, and
Oh, nice.
just such a cool vibe there. We went to actually see some local bands there last night, but I would have loved to have seen them there and just see them live, period. So I was really upset I missed that.
I only knew to go because you were telling me you were upset you missed it.
Yeah, I couldn't
'Cause I didn't know
remember
they were
if it
coming
was
here.
if it was before or after. Yeah,
And so it was a coin flip. When I check, I'm like, did they already play here, or are they on their way here? And fortunately, they were on their way here. You know, I kind of rely on Facebook and Live Nation emails to tell me what I need to know, but they don't always know
yeah.
what I need to know.
Not for those smaller venues. You almost have to just like
Yeah.
keep an eye on them.
Yeah, so glad that you mentioned it. So glad that when I went to look, they were coming. And so glad they weren't coming while I was in Japan. So it all worked out.
Yeah, I like them in general. I think it's different and fun, and I like that style of music a lot. So
Yeah. Sometimes they can get a little goofy. There's a lot of slide whistle on a couple of these songs, and I'm like, just
yeah.
put it away. You know, like, come on. But then they'll go into some wild psychedelic jam with all kinds of distortion, you know, and not jam band jam, but like fuzz.
Yeah.
Just like you
Yeah.
said, right? So
My relationship with psychedelia ebbs and flows.
it's complicated.
It is complicated
Yeah.
because I wouldn't say I'm anti-psychedelia, but I wouldn't say I'm pro. I'm kind of a centrist when it comes to psychedelia. And
Yeah.
then when you throw in dashes of African rhythms and Brazilian influences, it becomes a really eclectic journey for me that I'm not sure I'm capable of understanding how I feel about it. So as I sit here
that's fair.
on the subject of Os Mutantes, I can't say I'm neither here nor there with this. And I think I wrote in the text thread that I'm like, this is fun. I think you said it, Carla. This is fun. It's talented. They flow well together. And at the same time, going more than 2 songs deep in one sit down is too much for me. But mixed into a lengthy playlist where it just pops in there, or an evening with friends, and it kind of rotates in, and you know, I could even hear multiple songs in the same evening of this band, but not back to back to back to back. I think that's where I'm struggling. Now, I was very well aware of the vinyl that Brad left on my credenza when he left here as a gift, that he's like, I'm leaving you this, but you probably won't like it, but I'm leaving it to you anyway.
Yeah, some kind of gift, right? I did leave you the head on the door too, as compensation.
As compensation, you did.
I knew you would. I knew that you'd be onto that one. So
We're still working on accessing a record player, but they're here and ready for it. And so I'd say, you know, I'm just going to stay neutral, Switzerland, on the fence about Os Mutantes, but it's a potluck of sound for sure.
I thought Liz would like this song. Did Liz listen to it?
She likes this more than I do.
Yeah, I thought Liz would like it.
Yeah.
So if you play that third record, and as between you and Liz, you're not feeling it, there's a third person in this chat who should have it. So just
Is that you?
bear that in mind. Yeah, I need 2 copies.
Oh, you have one copy.
Oh, forget Carla. Yeah, no, I need 2 copies. No,
I thought Carla already had it. Sorry.
I don't have
Okay.
any Os Mutantes on vinyl.
It may make its way to your collection, but I would never want to do that until giving it a fair listen to on the record player. And maybe it'll get the debut listen when the record player shows up in the house, but you know.
Well, if you decide you don't like it when you go to Columbus in November, you can just leave it in the guest room chest of drawers, where a Kraftwerk record that Brad got me is currently sitting, and I'm going to pick up tomorrow.
Right.
So.
Dropbox Columbus. Yeah.
And I'll just pick that up. Pick that up.
I'll
next
more
week.
personally deliver to you in March.
There's a track on it called Meu Refrigerador Non Funciona, which I think is my refrigerator doesn't work.
Sounds about right.
And I don't exactly know like all of the words, but the way that guy sings about his refrigerator not working, the way he sings the blues about that is just astonishing. So
Is it equivalent to Faust and their dental problems?
yeah, I think it might be. I think it very well might be. It's funny yesterday, and it's funny you said it, Mark, because yesterday I had two of my uncles over. I had Zio and my Uncle Joe, and Mark, you know these characters.
I do.
And my Uncle Joe's grandson, Joe. They were over for dinner, and I had the Tropicalia record, not Os Mutantes, but the Tropicalia compilation playing just like in the background right while we were eating. And the Os Mutantes song came on, and Zio, right, my Uncle Russ says, "What is this? This is great." And then separately, as I'm walking back out onto the patio, my Uncle Joe says, "What kind of garbage is this? Oh my God, it's like a bunch of Brazilians on acid." And I was like, well, that's exactly what it was. So it could go either way.
I
For
think
sure.
your uncle's reactions are kind of.
You're like an equipoise between
I've
the
got 2 marks on each of my shoulders,
two. Right.
and they're doing the same thing. They're fighting over what to think about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well,
All right.
here's some more live music. I think these 3. Well, I guess Carla and I's picks sit in a relatively similar indie rock genre, and then you came left field with a big closer, but fun songs to add to the ever-growing playlist. Which, by the way, Carla, you had a little dinner party or cocktail party at your house and had the playlist going as your featured sound. How'd that
did.
How'd that
Oh,
go
yeah?
over?
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, great. See, listeners, this playlist, you can hang out to it on a Sunday morning, you can go on a road trip, or you can host a cocktail party.
We won't talk about the songs I fast forwarded through, but there were a couple.
Because people asked, or
Generally
because you.
speaking,
Os Mutantes wasn't on there yet. So.
but generally speaking, it was perfect.
I'm pretty sure I know the song.
It didn't work in the vibe of the party, so
Fair. Feminist rock really does.
really, it'll really bring a party down quick. So,
Unless bras are coming off and getting burned, it's just not going to work out, you know?
it's like running through the room to the iPad.
Get pretty angry pretty fast. I get it.
As
I
people
get
are
it.
starting to put on their coats.
It wasn't my pick.
I'm not angry anymore, Carla. I'm not angry anymore.
I'm telling you, the Survivor episode
That's a good
could
idea.
be fun, could be ruthless.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's probably going to be both, but we'll save that for another time.
Or the Purge, maybe that's what we call it. Yeah.
Purge. Yes.
Well, until next time.
Yeah, which shouldn't be that far away. We are back in the saddle and we are riding.
That's what we're telling ourselves anyway. Truth will be in the pudding of how quickly we publish these episodes, but season 4 is off to the races.
It is. We've got more music to bring you. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.